They say evil hides in plain sight, but in this story, it didn't hide at all. It lived inside a man the world trusted, a man with power, wealth, legacy, a man whose voice shook with panic as he told police he'd found his wife and son murdered. But behind that trembling voice, behind those frantic words, investigators would soon uncover a trail of deceit so deep, so cold, so carefully arranged, that the truth would shake an entire state to its core. Because in this case, the monster wasn't lurking in the shadows. He was standing right beside the bodies. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. Now let's begin. New details emerged in 2021 about the timeline of events in the Murdaugh double murder case, a case that tore through South Carolina and exposed some of the darkest secrets hidden behind a powerful family name. A prominent former lawyer and father of two stood accused of killing his wife and one of his sons. And everything began with one call, a call that investigators would later realize carried more truth and more lies than anyone could have imagined. Okay, sir, give me the address again. It's Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. Okay, are they breathing? No, ma'am. And you said it's your wife and your son? My wife and my son. The voice was that of Alex Murdaugh, a man whose family had controlled legal power in South Carolina's Lowcountry for nearly a century. A family known for influence, money, and an untouchable reputation. But tonight, everything was unraveling. They're on the ground, out at my kennels, Alex said, his voice shaking. As officers arrived, Alex immediately mentioned he had retrieved a gun for protection. Do you have any guns on you? No, sir. You're fine. Turn around for me. When deputies approached the scene, reality hit with a cruel force. Maggie Murdaugh and their son Paul were lying on the ground near the dog kennels, still, silent, lifeless. This was June 7th, 2021. From the outside, the Murdaugh family looked perfect: a respected attorney, a well-loved wife, two sons, a grand home, and a legacy stretching back generations. But beneath that polished image, cracks had already formed. Deputy Daniel Green of the Colleton County Sheriff's Office was the first to arrive. Got a Whiskey Fox, Whiskey Mike, both gunshot wounds to the head. He radioed in, confirming the nightmare. Paul Murdaugh, just 22 years old, had been shot multiple times with a shotgun. His mother, Maggie, 52, suffered numerous wounds from a high-powered rifle. The brutality was staggering: chest, wrists, head, suggesting anger, intent, and close knowledge of the victim's routines. This was not a random killing. Someone had been here with purpose. Alex stood nearby, wearing a t-shirt and shorts, appearing distraught. But as time would reveal, appearances were the beginning of the deception. Earlier that evening, on June 7th, Alex had called Maggie and told her to meet him at their family's hunting lodge in Islandton, saying they needed to visit his dying father. Maggie drove separately to Moselle. Alex claimed that after she arrived, he went to visit his sick mother in Alameda, a drive roughly 20 minutes away. He said he returned to find the unthinkable. At first, investigators saw nothing glaringly wrong with his story. His emotional state fit what one might expect from a grieving husband and father, and there was no immediate motive. But the calm never lasts long in cases like this. A friend later revealed that Maggie had texted her that night, saying Alex was acting fishy. Something wasn't right. She felt he was up to something. And then came the first major crack. A video discovered on Paul's phone, taken just minutes before the murders, captured voices in the background. One of them was unmistakably Alex. This evidence shattered his alibi. He had claimed he wasn't at the kennels. The video proved he was. His timeline began to collapse. Cell phone records deepened the suspicion. They showed Alex at the Moselle property far longer than he admitted. Investigators realized the entire timeline he gave them was a carefully constructed lie. And when they looked deeper into his life, the real storm began. Financial records revealed years of theft, millions of dollars stolen from his law firm and his own clients. One of those victims was the family of Gloria Satterfield, the Murdaugh family's longtime housekeeper, who died in 2018 under mysterious circumstances at the Moselle property. Alex had urged Gloria's sons to sue him for wrongful death, promising them the settlement would help their family. But instead, he secretly stole the entire payout, over $4 million. investigators suddenly saw a different picture. A man drowning in debt. And now, a man whose wife and son were murdered at the exact moment his financial crimes were on the verge of being uncovered. The walls were closing in. As detectives traced more of Alex's history, they uncovered a staggering pattern of manipulation: stolen funds, false claims, hidden accounts, staged accidents, and a decades-long deception that no one had questioned until now. Each new discovery tightened the circle around Alex and raised a chilling possibility. Were Maggie and Paul murdered because Alex needed a distraction from his collapsing empire of lies? As the investigation expanded, the public watched in disbelief as one of the most powerful families in South Carolina unraveled. And behind every secret was Alex. The case was no longer just about a double homicide. It was about corruption, power, and a man willing to destroy everything, including the people closest to him, to keep his secrets buried. And yet, this story was far from over, because investigators were about to uncover even darker chapters linked to the Murdaugh name. Chapters involving suspicious deaths, hidden evidence, and betrayals no one could have imagined. The crisis surrounding Alex Murdaugh deepened even further, not just because of the lies and the financial crimes, but because of the darker shadows cast by his son Paul's past. This part of the story had already shaken their community years before the murders, and it was impossible to separate it from everything that followed. The tragedy began with the death of 19-year-old Mallory Beach, a young woman whose life ended during a night out that should never have turned deadly. She had been on a boat with several friends, including Paul, when the crash happened. "Where's your emergency?" the dispatcher asked. "We're in a boat crash on Archer Creek. There's 6 of us, and 1 is missing." "Who's missing?" "Female. Mallory Beach is missing." The words echoed through the darkness as the surviving teens stood shivering, shocked, and bleeding on the riverbank. They told police over and over that Paul had been drinking heavily, stumbling, slurring, yelling. Witnesses later said he insisted on driving the boat himself, and with no lights on, at high speed, he slammed it into a bridge piling. Everyone was thrown into the freezing water. Mallory never resurfaced. It took 8 agonizing days before rescuers found her body. The community mourned, and grief quickly turned to anger. People whispered about the Murdaughs, how they always handled things their own way, how their influence seemed to reach into every corner of the legal system. Paul was charged with 3 felony counts related to Mallory's death. The evidence was strong. Many believed he would finally be held accountable. But then, nothing happened. The legal process dragged on for years with unusual delays. Court dates shifted, motions stalled, and for a long time, Paul lived freely, partying and posting on social media, appearing untouched by the seriousness of the case. To Mallory's family and friends, that was salt in a wound that never healed. Many locals believed that the Murdaugh name, a name that had dominated the Lowcountry legal system for generations, was protecting him. Some even accused the family of trying to influence officers the night of the crash, pressuring the other teens to change their statements. By the time Paul and Maggie were murdered, the community was already divided. Some believed the killings were retaliation for the Beach case. Others wondered whether the family's long-held power had created enemies who finally struck back. And detectives exploring every angle had to consider whether Paul's death was connected to that earlier tragedy. But just when the investigation into the murders couldn't get more complicated, it did. In September 2021, a new revelation exploded across the media. Alex Murdaugh, grieving husband, grieving father, and increasingly suspicious figure, was found on the side of the road with a gunshot wound to the head. He survived. At first, he claimed he had been attacked by a stranger while changing a tire. But that story unraveled quickly. Days later, investigators revealed the truth. Alex had staged the entire thing. He had hired a distant cousin and former client, Curtis Edward Smith, to shoot him so his surviving son Buster could receive a $10 million insurance payout. But the plan failed when the bullet only grazed Alex's head. Smith insisted Alex had never asked him to be a hitman. Alex insisted he'd been trying to end his own life. And investigators suspected something else entirely, that this bizarre staged shooting was tied to the murders of Maggie and Paul. Why would a man who just lost his wife and son try to orchestrate his own death only months later? Detectives began revisiting every detail of the murders. They found contradictions, movements that didn't match his timeline, statements that didn't line up, and financial motives that suddenly seemed impossible to ignore. Alex had been drowning in debt, embezzling millions from clients, from colleagues, and even from his own family's firm. His lies were decades deep, and investigators realized something chilling. The moment his crimes were about to be exposed, Paul and Maggie were killed. Prosecutors believed he had murdered them to gain sympathy, stall the financial investigations, and redirect all attention toward tragedy instead of fraud. The staged roadside shooting only reinforced that theory. Meanwhile, Alex's defense team, led by Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, accused the investigation of being sloppy and biased from the start. They argued that heavy rain had washed away evidence at the crime scene. They pointed out that friends and family members were allowed to walk around the scene before it was properly secured. They said the state had built a narrative first and looked for evidence later. But many investigators disagreed, saying that Alex's behavior, inconsistencies, and lies were stronger evidence than anything found on the ground. By October 2021, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division publicly named Alex a person of interest, a critical turning point. And in July 2022, a Colleton County grand jury indicted him on 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possessing a weapon during a violent crime. In January 2023, the trial began in Walterboro, South Carolina, a trial watched by millions online and in the national press. Prosecutors introduced Alex's financial crimes as motive, arguing that he killed his family because his lies were collapsing. The defense fought to exclude that evidence, but was overruled. When Alex took the stand in February, he admitted to lying about his whereabouts, admitted to stealing money, admitted to years of deception, but he denied killing his wife and son. On March 2, 2023, the jury delivered its verdict, guilty on all counts. Alex Murdaugh was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the story didn't end there. In the months that followed, Alex faced a flood of additional charges, including federal crimes like wire fraud and money laundering. He pleaded guilty to 22 federal charges in September 2023. His legal team filed appeals, claiming jury tampering and misconduct. The South Carolina Supreme Court agreed to review the case in 2024. In prison, Alex has violated rules, lost privileges, and continued to attract national attention. Public opinion remains deeply divided. Some believe he is guilty beyond any doubt, a man who built a life of lies and destroyed everything around him. Some believe the state rushed to judgment, using his financial crimes to paint him as a murderer. And some believe the truth is even more complex than what was revealed in court. But nearly everyone agrees on one thing. The rise and fall of Alex Murdaugh exposed how power, privilege, and corruption can twist justice, break families, and leave communities shattered. And that is where this chapter ends. What are your thoughts on this case? Let's continue the conversation below. If you found this story compelling, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime content. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.